Hi, I'm Jodi Bloom. I'm a caregiver, like many of you probably if you're watching this video. And I wanted to share some of the stories that I've been putting recently on my blogs and on Facebook so that you could hear it from me. Today, I'm sharing 4 basic stories. One is about the memory testing that I went through with my husband. Another is about the last normal year, as I call it now. Also, the early medication journey, and then some of just the behaviors that I had to go through. And it's really my hope that these stories will help you. In the future, I will have caregiving episodes, songwriting episodes, stories behind the songs, and hopefully my spoken videos will enhance your experience and help you know that it really is me. I lived through these things. And if you are also living through something similar and you want to share your story or you have a question or a comment, go ahead and leave a comment here in YouTube or reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. I'm pretty easy to find, or on my website, and I'll give you that link at the end of the video. So again, my hope is that this will help someone who may never watch a Facebook video or post, may never read a blog, that you will find something to resonate and say, oh, that's how I feel. And I had a friend who helped me with the video. She asked me questions to stay on track, and I'm really hoping that that helps also for you to get a glimpse of what it was like for me and what I'm calling the early journey.
When you started out, did anybody have solutions that you could look toward and
Oh boy, I tell you, I just didn't even know what hit me, to be honest, and I didn't know where to look. When I look back at the very beginning of this dementia caregiving journey is what I guess I could call it, and I'm not sad about it. I feel like dementia happened for me, not to me, and I say that because it's made me a much kinder person. It's made me much more able to understand people. I am far from perfect, and I accept a lot of other people's, reasons for their behavior, I guess.
Humanity?
Yes, humanity. That's exactly it. So, and it started probably, around 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. And I do want to be careful when I'm talking about my husband that I'm not, saying things he can't defend himself. So I wish that I had had some of what I've learned then. In fact, one of my most recent posts, someone said, boy, I could have used this 10 years ago. And that's really what drives me now, is that the message and the stories, the songs, the lessons I've learned, that they can come to life. That, some people may never pick up a book. Some may never listen to a music video, but maybe by speaking it and they're flicking through and the YouTube algorithm says, here, this is something that you might be interested in. And if it helps them, find some nuggets or look around the websites and find things. Yeah, there are some things that help me a lot. But in the beginning,
Yes.
I can remember even I bought 2 books. One was called The 36-Hour Day, and the other was, I can't even remember. But The 36-Hour Day, I read that a lot. And I actually put a different cover around it because I didn't want my husband to feel uncomfortable because I was reading about his disease. And he didn't have a lot of problem with that disease because he had 3 sisters that had Alzheimer's. And originally that was what he was diagnosed with. But before the diagnosis, so like in 2016, he had stent surgery, heart stent. And then he got a little better going through cardiac rehab. And I thought, oh, that was what was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there were some interesting interesting moments that we had, when his memory was remembering things different than I remembered.
Do you think that a lot of times people in this situation try to make a reason for other than this is something life changing?
Oh, yes. You mean like, well, the thing that comes to my mind is people really don't understand what's going on, and you blame that other person for their behavior. Like, why are they behaving like that? Don't they know any better? Well, the truth is, it's the brain malfunctioning. It's not the behavior. And it took me years. So in 2017, I asked the doctor if he would do some memory testing. I had talked to our pastor even, and he said, well, why don't you suggest that? And the doctor said, he really did say it. He said, well, why would you do that? The pills are worse than the disease.
Mm.
He was saying to me, what are you going to do with that information?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, spam call. I didn't realize it at the time, but there's a lot to be gained with the information from memory testing, which I will talk about in a minute. So a year later was 2018, we went to the same doctor, but at this time I asked the nurse during the, intake, I said, well, I really think it might be a good idea to do some cognitive or memory testing. And she said, well, yeah, we can order that. And so they just did. And so we had that done in May, I think, of 2018. And we got the results about a month later, maybe. And I was amazed at the results. One of the biggest things was that my husband had a lot of what they called intrusions. So like some of those memory testings, they'll say, okay, cat, tree, door, road, and repeat them back, 5 words usually. Well, repeated back, but he would make up a lot of words. And the psychologist said that's usually not normal. People will just remember a few, but they just will draw a blank. They won't make it up. He says, so what happens when people are adding words to it? That means they are doing a lot of filling in with their own memory or their own thoughts to what makes sense to them to complete that memory. And so when I learned that he was doing that, I mean, I kind of experienced that in the remembering things differently than I did.
Right.
I just stopped blaming and stopped getting angry and realized, okay, that's just how he's going to remember it, and lots of times I would have to just shut my mouth and just do a sanity check and go, okay, I know what I remember. He's remembering something different. I'm just going to, ignore it and go on. But so I felt that part of the memory testing alone was really helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at that point you knew that he was adding just to make it make sense in his mind.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and we took a trip to see his sister. Things felt kind of normal, I would say, for about a year and a half. Somewhere in there, I started doing things like I had to add a camera to the house. Now, we had a security system already, but we didn't have any indoors. And sometimes I just needed to know what he had done. But he was starting to not retain explanations.
Right.
And so it was real easy for me to say, oh, that's just part of our security system. And I practiced saying things cheerfully because I would often have to have explanations. And I have always been a stickler for honesty. And because I can't keep my story straight if I don't tell the truth. I mean, it happens now and then. We say something quickly and it just happens.
And the thing is that it was still your security system because you were trying to make sure he was secure.
Absolutely.
And not doing something that would harm himself, harm you, harm your home.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I just say that I truly believe that I never gave him a reason not to trust me. There were times when he was losing the ability to do things that he would be very, very anxious. And I just would say, you've got to trust me. I'm going to take care of that. And oh my gosh, sometimes he'd come at you with like, how can you help me with this? I got to do this right now. Or I lost my, whatever it was, my favorite pair of socks. And I would just say, I will help you find those as soon as I'm done with this, as soon as I, have time to do that. And then I would usually help him find them. Sometimes I knew it was not important, and if he didn't bring it up, I didn't worry about it. But still, he trusted that I would be there for him. And that was especially important when it came to finances, because as he lost the ability to handle them, that I could just really reassure him that, you'll be taken care of. I'll, take care of you and so forth. But, so we were talking about what I call the last normal year. And it defined, actually later on was the when I had a lot of new normals, but I didn't think of it as a normal year then. It just wasn't a lot of rapid fire adjustments,
right?
Which it just seemed like, and it still does. I still have to make adjustments all the time to, something that I used to do. Just, I don't know, just little adjustments all the time that it becomes a new routine. But so the last normal year was probably about a year and a half long, from the memory testing until the end of 2019. And we just, I don't know, lived life. We would go camping. We would take trips to Arizona, and he would still drive, and we'd stay in a house or a condo or something. And I was still working. I was working full time through this. I worked from home.
Right, that helped.
Yeah. In the fall of 2018, though, I remember calling my pastor and saying, I have to go out of town for 3 days. Can you check on him while I'm gone? And just being worried about him, taking care of himself, making good decisions. But if I was gone for 3 days, that meant I let supper. He'd go to Subway, and, and he might fix himself a steak. So that was,
Yeah, he could still do almost every single thing. It's just that you knew where it was headed.
Yeah.
And you were keeping ahead of that.
Yeah.
So
his initial diagnosis was actually Alzheimer's, and so I, kind of studied that and was involved with other people, and they weren't sure if there was some vascular involved, but the neurologist said she thought it wasn't vascular, so they put him on medication for Alzheimer's, and that was good for a little while, but then it seemed like it made him worse, and so I actually took him off of that. And
you have you work in the medical profession.
Yeah, I'm a nurse.
Yeah, so you understand that and the signs that something's not working. And
I would really study a lot, like what these medications were for, and the side effects,
supposed to do,
right, what they're supposed to do, and even talk to other people maybe who had relatives on them or whatever. But I do know that being a nurse definitely has its advantages in this. When it comes to talking to doctors, I tell them I'm a nurse, but take that with a grain of salt. But I probably understand what you're telling me. I might not come up with it. And then I would, give them and earn their respect, give them, my reports of what I was doing with him and so forth. But yeah, it's, I know that has been an advantage, but the biggest advantage is experience and
Right.
um
The reason I was stressing it was because somebody out there might be wondering about, should I just drop this drug? And
very
then
good, very good. Yeah.
because you have the nursing experience, you would know the warning signs that this
Yeah.
is, and you would know how to do it, and
Yeah.
you're not suggesting somebody just goes this.
No,
I'm just gonna.
and I actually made the suggestion to the neurologist and said, I'm not so sure that this is really, doing that much good anymore. I think we should maybe wean him off of that. And he agreed. So when I say that, I took him off, I really should, preface it that it's
That he was weaned and
working with the doctor on that. And yeah, then they, I always tell him I may not be the most compliant, but I'm very honest. I will tell you what we've done. And then fast forwarding a little bit, he was then later diagnosed with Parkinson's, and Parkinson's presumptively from Agent Orange, and all the symptoms that he had just really fit that much better. And then they got him onto a medication for that, and that has really helped. So got him off the wrong stuff and on the right stuff. And these drugs are very powerful, and they are not to be taken lightly, nor too much. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Right. And so you suggest too, because you are observant, that anytime anybody's put on any drug, how are they reacting to it? Because the person that's with them the most, they can give that insight to the doctor.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I kind of gloss over that because I don't really want to, I'm not giving anybody that kind of advice per se, but every drug comes with like how long it takes for it to act. Like an oral drug by mouth is usually 20 minutes, but you want to look to see how long is it going to act, what's its peak, and how long does it last, because that can really give you insights into if your person is handling it well, and when it wears off, are you seeing their symptoms return, and taking that back to the doctor, being very, very proactive, and getting the information that you need,
Right.
can really be, helpful. Yeah,
And
very
it
helpful.
seems like, talking to you, that observing what's going on, making note of it, maybe even writing things down.
Absolutely.
So when you talk to the doctor, you have some helpful information.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I used to go in all the time, and I realized last time I went into the doctor, I didn't even have a list. I'm like, I guess the complaints are getting shorter, or the management is getting easier or something. And it is easier now than it was. I tell you, between 2020 and the end of 2022, that was like the worst. Yeah. But we did have and that's why I say I look back and it's like, oh, that was a normal year. We could still do things. He could still order his food in restaurants, and we could go places, and he knew how to find me. He knew how to use a phone. He knew how to do this and how to do that.
So did you do some things that you knew you were not going to be able to do? Did you purposely try to do some of the things that you may have wanted to do later?
Well, there was one thing that we did. We took 2 trips to Finland because he's 100% Finnish, and we wanted to try to find the descendants of his ancestors. And so one of those was in 2018. And by then, we'd had the memory testing, and I understood, what was going on. And I drove everywhere. The other thing that I realized is if you try to make that person with dementia do too much or think too hard, they're going to short circuit. That's what I call it. And they are going to have no energy left for what they need the energy for. And so it's better if they ask you 10 times, now, who is that person in that picture? You just tell them who that person in that picture is. So when we would visit these relatives and he was having a hard time keeping it all straight, I would tell him. He was very good when he was around them, and he thoroughly enjoyed them. He thoroughly enjoys people still, you know, and so it was really great. But yeah, going on that trip to Finland, that was definitely one thing. And we actually started staying longer in Arizona, like 3 months at a time in the winter, during those years, and did it 3 or 4 years, I can't remember. And then it just got too hard. You know, I couldn't go alone. I needed a caregiver with me, various things. Yeah. But yeah, it was, you know.
But you knew where it was heading, and you did like take advantage of some of the time you had, not to just say, well, he's going to be going downhill and moping. You took that and said, we've got this time now.
Yeah. And we would do some things. I'm trying to think of other, like, mostly I think in terms of trips. Oh, like we remodeled our house. That was a huge thing, and that was in 2019. And I felt like if I always thought I'd wait till I retired to do that, just because I would have more time. But I thought I need to do this now while he can participate. And if I wait from the things I was reading, then the place will be unfamiliar to him. He won't know where he is. And so, yeah, I went, we did that remodeling, and it was great. I still look at my countertops and I realize he helped pick those out, you know?
Yeah.
And he did participate in the decisions for some of it, so.
Yeah, that was a really good decision too. You can tell.
Yeah. And yet at the same time, I didn't try to get him involved in designing the kitchen cupboards. You know, that would have been too much.
I think it's too much for most guys to get to the kitchen. It's like, no, it's going to be what you want because...
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's pretty much pretty nice, you know, now. And so, yeah. But, you know, things gradually changed until I was making more and more of the decisions and just, you know, not really bothering him about decisions that didn't need to be made. Once in a while, he would hear about something. Well, how come I didn't know about that? Even though he was right there when it happened. And it was something like we had to sell his grandpa's Jeep, or his dad's Jeep. I don't know. And it was a rust bucket, but someone wanted to restore it, you know, so we did. And he forgot all about that. And so when we got a phone call about it, oh man, that upset him quite a bit. But, you know, I just let it slide. I found you just kind of let things go and don't even talk about them. And sometimes the anger goes away, and then so does the issue. And really, I learned that early on too. It's like their emotion is never wrong. They might be totally wrong in what they're thinking, but the emotion isn't. And so even though you totally disagree with them, you can say, oh, that sounds really frustrating. Or, oh, is that making you pretty upset? You know, kind of acknowledging their feeling. And that kind of takes the wind out of the sails a little bit. It keeps them from pushing back so much. And
they don't have to defend their position because you're acknowledging.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're setting up this, you know. Yeah. And so the reason that I wanted to like make music and write about this is so that I could begin to share what I've been through and what I've learned, and hopefully it will help people. It's really that's the whole thing, you know, what the messages and the music. The music is, I realize, that's what I needed to do to get the message out. Some of the songs will really hit home to some people, but I think the messages probably will more. It's hard to say. Yeah.
The thing is, there's a lot of people that have these issues that can't do this. They can't talk to people. They can't do YouTube. They can't do make a music.
Right.
They can't do any of that. But when you've got that gift and that talent and you want to help and reach out.
Yeah.
You know,
that's an interesting that you say that. I watch YouTube a lot, and I watch this one family that just went from, they live in Alaska, but they went from Florida to Alaska on a road trip. And I felt like I was traveling vicariously with them. So you're right. If there are people who feel like they can't talk about it, but they can, watch me talk and say, that's exactly how I feel. Well, that might just free something in them and just, let go of it. And yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thanks for being here and walking this journey with me. If you have questions or thoughts, comments, drop them in the comments in YouTube, or you can put them on my website. I have a contact page, and I'll put the link up for that. And always find the hope. That's my paradigm for life, and I want to share that with you. I'll see you next time on Jodi Bloom Music, and I hope that I always write songs and share stories from my real life and the real feelings that come with it. Thanks again.